Welcome back to another MYOG Monday. Yes, it's Kydex Part 3. So, I did a little work off camera just to save a little bit of time. I'm trying to cut back how big my videos are. Being almost an hour long sometimes, it's just too much. So, what I did off camera is I made these strips. They're just Kydex strips with an eyelet in them, and then I just use mounting hardware. This would be something for like a scout carry. You could have a belt going right through here, so you'd have your scout carry. Alternately, you could make a piece like this that would go this way, and your belt could go through this way, and it could ride high on your hip. What I'm going to do is we're going to make a piece that's going to mount here, 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 here. It's going to come up, or it's going to go over, it's going to come up, it's going to go over, go down, and we're going to attach a leather belt loop to it, so this will ride kind of low, which is what I'm used to. So that is going to be the extent of our work today. Plus, right here, where I have for my thumb, so I can remove my knife, I'm going to try to add some texture to this right here. And we're going to do that by taking this center punch, which has got knurling on it, and we're going to try heating up that knurling with our little Soto pocket torch, and then we're going to try to impress that knurling right there. So, without further ado, let's give it a try. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, I'll be sanding that out. Get my gloves on here. Alright. Give her a try. So I hope everybody's weekend was pretty good. As usual, mine could have been better, but it is what it is, you know. Gotta take the good and the bad all together and try to make the best of it. I can smell that brass heating up. Let's see if that's hot enough. That's kind of working. I guess it needs to be hotter. I'm heating it right here below that 5-inch, so I know where I'm heating it. This would work better if I had a piece of steel that was knurled. Brass isn't really ideal for this, but I'm using what I got on hand at the moment without having to dig through everything. Okay. Oh, wow. I certainly feel the heat through the gloves. Alright. That added, and I don't know how to get that to focus. That added, let me see if I can zoom in on it and get it to focus. Come on, focus. See that little bit of texturing? That's awesome. So let me take my glove off and see how that feels. Oh yeah, I can really feel that texturing. See if I got any more heat. I'm going to try one more application to make that texturing just a little bit more aggressive. And we will see. Let me zoom out. There we go. And we will see how long it takes before the cats try to interrupt me. So I hope somebody out there is keeping track of the time. Because right now they're hovering around. And there's James voicing his opinion. James, I'm a little busy, buddy. That's perfect. I don't think I need to do any more to that. It's added just enough texture that I want to let that center punch cool. It added just enough texture there. I mean, I can see the texture, and when I put my thumb on it, I get a lot of purchase now. See, before when it was smooth, I kind of questioned whether or not I was going to get the purchase I want. So, boom, that's done. Let me get set up for the next step, and I'll bring you back. Alright, we're back. I removed the little strips here. So we have full access to the back of the sheath. This is going to be the back, because I'm right-handed, and a right-hand draw would be pretty much like that. Okay? So I have this piece of 1/4 inch thick scrap wood, and when I put it on here, you'll see I got about 3/16 of an inch gap between these, and I'm going to use this wood as a form. I'm going to heat up this piece of Kydex, and I'm going to form it around this wood to where it goes like this, down, back, down, back. So I'm doing a 90, a 90, a 90, and a 90-degree bend. I'm going to do that with this industrial heat gun I got. I got some clamps, and I need to go grab another piece of scrap wood. Or, wait a minute, do I have a piece over here? No, I don't. So I got to go grab another piece of scrap wood, and we will get started on that. Okay, I didn't have any other scrap wood, but I did have this piece of scrap metal, and this is actually etched. If you've seen my electro etching video, then this will look very familiar with you. This is electro etched, and I just paint it in. It's just a piece of scrap aluminum. So we're going to use that as our brake, basically. So let me get some gloves on here. And if I remember right, this heat gun isn't very loud, so hopefully I won't have to mute the audio. If it is loud, I will mute the audio now that I figured out how to do that. Alright. Oh, that's not bad. I actually think that's hot enough. So in a minute here, I'll adjust the camera, show you more what I'm doing. That is, if I can... Ooh, I did it all crooked. So never mind. Gotta heat this up again. See, without using a very complicated pre-made form, you're gonna make mistakes. But once again, Kydex is very forgiving if you heat it up right away afterward. And that's what we're doing. Okay. See if I can do this and keep it somewhat straight. Okay, so I'm going to adjust the camera, and basically I'm holding this all in place. I'm using this as a brake to do our 90-90, and once that's hardened, Then I'm going to heat this side here, turn this, and do it again. Real simple, real straightforward. So I'm going to turn the camera off here for a bit and let... Okay, we are back. I found another piece of the scrap metal I was practicing my metal etching on. You know, this is Sparta, I guess. And we're going to use that for another break here because I'm not happy with how sharp that 90 is. It's not sharp enough for me. So I'm going to leave this clamped. I'm going to take this piece of... Actually, I can leave that wood there. I'm going to try heating this right here with a heat gun, see if I can move that in better. And then I'm going to use this piece to clamp over that. So, here we go. Yep, we're getting soft. Okay. Now if I can just keep this all where I want it, and I'm already having a hard time. Oh yeah, that's a lot better. Okay, I got it pretty much where I want it. Now if I can just sneak this in here, grab my other clamp, and I'm gonna have to move the camera to get in here with this other clamp. Okay, I'll bring you back after that has time to cool. Alright, we're back. It's had a good 5-6 minutes to cool. Let's take a look. Oh yeah, that's a much sharper break. I like that. Okay, now we're going to spin it and try doing the other side. And hopefully not mess it up. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's a little crooked, but I think I can work with that. Let me see here. Oh yeah, I have room to trim right there. I think that'll work. Okay, so let's try the other side. Now to do this, I'm going to set it like that. I'm going to clamp Mr. Sparta right like this, and that's going to protect that part of the Kydex because I only want to heat right here. So, gotta make sure I got this. Okay. Looking at the bottom, it all looks good. Okay. Once again with the gloves. Alright, let's do this. Get a little heat underneath. See if we can do this without messing it up. Oh no, that's not. It's just starting to get there. Needs a little bit more heat. There it is. Now if I can just hold that while I clamp it. Okay. Now I just need to let that cool. So I'll bring you back once it's had time to cool, and we'll go on to the next step. Okay, here we go. Everything's cooled off. Let's take a look. Alright. As you can see, it kind of got this side a lot better than that side, but I don't think it's going to matter because it's going to be on the back side. So that's how it will go. And then we're going to mount our leather right here to the outside and make our loop is going to be mounted here, and it's going to go like that. So the next step is going to be cutting. I got to get pencil, and we're going to figure out where to cut this. So, as always, this is fun doing this from behind the camera. I'm thinking right there, and cut down. I'm going to grab a square. Okay, a little machinist square here. That's where we're going to cut it. So let me get the cutting board out here. We'll cut this real quick and then go on from there. So I'll bring you back. Okay, let's get this cutting done so we can get on to the next step. That's roughly where I want to cut it, but I'm going to go a little bit off my line because I want a little bit extra material here. So we're going to cut it right there. Okay. Okay. There's our piece. Let's take a look, see how that looks. So here's the back side of the sheath, and we're going to have to figure out our holes and everything, and that's basically how it's going to mount, and that's almost level with the handle here. So when we do our loop's going to be nice and straight. See, I'll show you. See how that's almost level? There's barely a kick out. That's what I wanted. Plus, this cavity in here leaves room for how I'm going to attach the leather, which you will see. So, I guess the first thing is I gotta go get some clamps, and we're going to figure out where our holes go. So I'll be right back. Alrighty, we got our clamps. So now I gotta line this all up the way I want it. And I gotta make sure I cover where those eyelets are. I think right there and there. Now let me look. Yeah, it looks pretty good. So this will be the whole area, although I think that needs to go higher. Yeah, because it's a little close right there. So let me try pushing that up. Let me look down this. So there will be our hole areas. And once we have our holes and we can attach this, then I can draw my lines and cut off the excess. Just want to make sure that I'm not too close to that edge. I think that'll work. I think that's right where it needs to be. So, take our pencil. And I hear the police. I swear they're not coming for me. I swear it. Because they don't know where I'm at. Just joking. Don't anybody call the cops on me. Alright, let's see how this looks. So that's where our holes would be. I think that'll do. Alright, I am going to go punch, drill these, and we'll go from there. Alright, we're back. I got the holes drilled. As you can see, they line up pretty decently. So I'm going to go ahead and put some eyelets in here. And then we're going to briefly attach this with the hardware I got so I can figure out what I need to trim off. And then make this look real pretty. And then on to the next step. So I'll bring you back. Okay, we're ready to put some eyelets into it. We're going to all insert them from this side, because if you insert them like I have them inserted from this side, if I inserted one this way and then crushed it, they won't look the same. They will be different looking. So if you want to have it look somewhat professional, that's what you do. Okay. And there's one. There's two. As you can see, they look kind of narrow on this side and a little bit wider on that side. That's why you insert them from one side only for your project. That's three. And that's four. Okay, now I need to attach that to the sheath, figure out what I'm going to trim and sand, and I'll bring you back for that as soon as I get this out of my way. Okay everybody, so I got it mounted. That's how it looks on there. Now we got to draw out the areas where we're going to remove material. And make sure I put a lot of pencil lead, aka graphite, on there so I can see it real well. Okay, I think that'll work. I just put those rubber bumpers in there for right now. That isn't actually how I'm going to end up mounting it. I'm probably just going to put real thin rubber washers in there and get rid of those bumpers, because it doesn't need to be that high. That's kind of ridiculous. So I'm going to go ahead and take this off, go cut and sand and shape, and I'll bring you back. Alright, all the shaping and everything's done. I have it mounted. And there it is. So I got a little close here with that rivet, or that eyelet. I'm cool with it though. I think it'll work. Now I got to cut a piece of leather and make our loop, figure out where we're going to do our holes and mounting, and finish this up. So I'll bring you back when I'm set up for the next step. Okay, so the first thing we got to do is we got to figure out how long of a strap I want. And if it's mounting down here, I want the total loop to be about 8 inches where my thumb is. So 8 inches, fold it over. So we're looking at about 16 inches. Okay, so however long you want your strap to be, just double that. And when we cut the leather, it probably won't be about 16. I'm going to be cutting the leather with this strap cutter that I got. It's a leather worker's tool. What would be ideal for this sheath is a heavy webbing of some kind to make a loop. But the problem is I can't find any heavy webbing. All the webbing I have found is like really flexible and supple, and I don't want it to be that flexible. I want it to hang on my side and pretty much stay there without flopping all over the place. So we're using leather. So I got this. let me go get the leather. I'll bring you back. Okay, we have our leather. As you can see, it's pretty thick. This is a 6-foot length of leather that they sell at Tandy Leather for strapping, and it's pretty long. I don't need 6 feet. And they actually had a hole here to hang it. It's about 2.5 inches wide. Well, I've already marked off right there. That's 16 inches. So I'm going to take my strap cutter, and once getting these started sometimes can be a challenge, but once you got it going, okay, that's where it wants to cut. Well, I'm going to cheat a little bit to get this started. I'm going to take my knife and I'm going to slice this a bit. So I sliced it right there with the knife blade, and hopefully that's enough to get this strap cutter started. So let's see. Come on. There we go. There's a razor blade in here, and it is very sharp. There we go. And once you got this going, you just gotta pull, and we're cutting our piece, and I'm gonna cut that all the way down to my mark. And I decided I'm gonna make this 1.5 inches wide. I could have made it a little wider, but I think 1.5 inches is going to be just fine. Of course, this last little bit, there we go. That's as far as I want to go. See that? There is, man, that is bright in camera. Let me drop that down. Okay. I've cut it all the way to there. Now I need to just cut this piece off. And I can do that with my utility knife. So let me grab my ruler. I think right about there. Whoops, bumping the camera. There we go. Make sure to get this off. Okay. So here's our piece for our strap, our hanger. It'll be just about like that. That is going to be nice and heavy, and there is no side to side flop in that once that's mounted. And we're going to mount it pretty much like that, because I want it kind of in line with the handle, so it'll look like that. So now I need to work out the mounting holes. I need at least 2 mounts, 2 rivets. And I got special leather rivets that I can use to do this. And we got to work out our holes and all that. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the camera because this is going to take a little bit of measurement and a little bit of figuring. And I don't want to bore you with that, but I will show you the results when we are back. Okay, so I have kind of laid out where I want to do my holes, which will also be done on this. This is the hardware we're going to use. These are copper rivets for leather work. They're really heavy. And I got my hole punch here. I got it already set up. So I'm going to line this up. And get that. So there's one hole. What I'm doing is I'm lightly putting the hole punch on there and looking at where the impression is and then adjusting it so I can kind of get the hole exactly where I want it. Okay, there we go. Okay, and there's where our rivet would go through, so we're good there. Now what I need to do is I need to hold this square against itself. I'm going to use these little clamps, and then I'll punch the hole for the other side. So this way I know everything's nice and even. Okay, so I have it clamped up. It's nice and even. Everything feels even. So now I'm going to come in here with a hole punch. I'm going to punch this guy. Man, getting that out now. Ugh. Okay, I'm going to stick that rivet in there just to kind of help keep things lined up as I go to punch this hole. And then I'll pull this guy out. Ugh. Okay, there we go. We got our holes. Now, what we're going to do, I'm going to use this side that I already drew pencil on. That's going to be the inside part, just like that. So essentially, the rivets, let me get another rivet out here. And if you were wondering, that's the label. Copper rivets, blah blah blah, and burrs. Tandy Leather Factory. Unfortunately, the nearest Tandy to me is one heck of a drive. I only go there about maybe once a year, if that. Okay, so there's where our rivets would be. Now what we need to do is we need to line this up and figure out our holes. So we're going to take our guys out there, we're going to unfold this, and I'm going to lay this, and I want that to be even with the handle as possible, so it hangs tip down as straight as possible. I think right there. Now if I hold that and I turn this, yep, that's about perfect. That's where we're going to do our first hole, right there. So I'm going to take this all apart, take this out there, I'm going to drill this hole, and I'll bring you back, and then we're going to stick a rivet in it, put it back together, and try to line things up and figure out our next hole, because it's going to be a little offset. So I'll bring you back when we're ready for that. Okay, we got our first hole drilled. We got it back on. Got our piece of leather here with the rivet. We're just going to line up on that hole. And we're going to line up. So basically, I want the strap to kind of look like that. Okay? So alright, there's where our next hole is going to go. Let me go get that taken care of and I'll bring you back. Okay, so we got the last hole drilled. There's our two mounting holes. Here's our leather strap rivets. We're just going to line this up on the holes and stick it in there. If anybody was wondering, the correct size hole to drill that I found that fits these rivets really snug in the Kydex is I used a 5/32, of course, brad point drill bits. That's what you want to use on Kydex, and it is pretty snug. Okay, so this is what it looks like. It's not mounted yet, but that's essentially it. Okay, we got to do a couple more things, and then we got to dye the leather, and then we can do the final mounting, and we are done, folks. So let me get out the next tool for the next step, and I'll bring you back for that. Okay, so I want to round these corners, and I'm just going to use a penny and my pencil here. I'm just going to lay this out how I want to round it. About like that. About like that. Now, a good pair of scissors to cut leather like this is kind of key. These are not leather scissors, but they do a fair job. And I'm just going to kind of nip at it until I get it rounded. You know, I do have a pair of leather scissors. I'm just trying to remember where I put them. If you'll bear with me for 1 second, and I will see. And of course, they're not in my toolbox where they should be. But, you know what? We're going to make do with what we got. You could also take a blade, a good sharp knife blade, and you could cut that. So I kind of got that rounded the way I want. I'm going to stick my rivets in here. Whoops. Hopefully without dropping them like I just did. Stick my rivets in here. Okay. Now I want to make that identical to the other side. Oh, I'll be right back. Alrighty. I hate telemarketers, let me tell you. So, we kind of nibbled away at that, kind of got that rounded, looks better. Pop those out. Now this is an edging tool, and we just want to edge this. This is a number 4. They have different sizes. And that's exactly what it does, is it kind of breaks that sharp corner down, kind of rounds it. Okay. Okay, so you see how I got those edges down? Alright, now I gotta go find my leather dye. I want to dye this black so it matches the Kydex. And of course I have no idea where I put the leather dye, so I'm going to have to do all the dyeing and all that off camera because it's got to dry and it stinks really bad, so I'm doing that all outside. So when I bring you back, this will be dyed and ready for the next step. So I'll see you then. Alright everybody, we're back and we're in the workshop. We're over here at my drill press. This is a lamb's wool wheel. It's from this Harbor Freight kit. You get multiple wheels and a little collet. Their collet's not very good, so I made my own here. And we have our dyed leather. Okay. Now, this edge is still rough. We're going to slick the edge using this and some kiwi shoe polish. Alright. This is a real dirty, easy way to do it. I always wear gloves. Get a little shoe polish on my finger. And sometimes you can just load it directly. There we go. Got some on there. As you can see, that wheel isn't very goodly balanced. That's fine. We're just going to slick the edges down. And when this dries, it's going to look just like a belt that you bought at the store. Now you can use a hand slicker. I've done that for many years until I kind of was experimenting and came up with this method. I've seen other people using powered versions and different waxes and such. Because that's all you're doing is you're driving a wax into the finished edge here to where it looks like that. It looks really slicked out, looks really nice. That's all we're doing. And the heat and the friction of this wheel puts it right in that edge. And it's pretty much there for life. And since this is black, it doesn't really matter if I get a little bit of that on the outer surface here. Okay. Now I'm going to come around, I'm going to kind of get that inside edge. As you'll see, the dye didn't do as good a job on the skin side, the inner side of the leather. And that's because I had to improvise my leather dye. I finally found my bottle of leather dye and it was all dried out. So I had to get some isopropyl alcohol and some black Rit dye, and I kind of made my own leather dye. And it didn't do a good job on the inside. Okay, so these edges are nice and slicked. I mean, look at that. Looks just beautiful. I need to get this spot right here a little bit more. And all I'm doing is I'm doing a visual inspection to see if there's any light spots. And if there are, then I go ahead and I hit them again. Okay, that's pretty much it. We're going on to the next step. Okay, we're on to the next step. And we're going to use a little bit of mink oil on the outside and inside of the leather. And that's mainly because the dye I used had salt in it. And salt is a setting agent for the dye, but it's also going to dry out the leather. So we're just going to rub right in some mink oil, and we're going to get it on the back and the front. And this mink oil has a little bit of silicone in it, so it also is a preservative and water resistant feature to the leather. And that's why I'm wearing these gloves, because I'm just massaging it all in, front side, back side, and get a little bit more here for the back side, because I want to make sure it's got a decent amount in here so it'll be weather resistant and it'll last for many, many decades. And I'll tell you, you do this to a piece of leather, especially this heavy strap leather, it does soften it a little bit, so you got to be careful not to overdo it. But it's going to make it to where this thing's going to last for decades. You know, as long as if you see the leather's getting dry, you treat it again. Okay, there it is. Now we're ready for the next step. So I got to grab a few things and I'll bring you back for that. Alrighty, we're back. The leather has absorbed a good amount of what we rubbed into it, so we're ready for the next step. We've got our piece off the sheath. If you see, I got a little arrow on it, and that's to remind me which way the strap's got to go on here. So our next step basically is to mount this strap to our Kydex. Okay, we're putting these guys in here just like that. They're going to go, make sure that's clean, they're going to go right in here like that. Then we're going to take these other pieces, they're like a little copper washer, and we're going to put on here and we're going to trim this down. Now there's a tool, this is the tool, and it's got a hole and a doming part, and we're going to put the hole over this. We're going to take a soft faced hammer See that? We drove that on there nice and tight. Now we're going to do that again. Okay. Now, before we dome these, we're going to want to trim some of this excess off. Let me adjust this. I want you to see what I'm talking about. See how tall this is? We don't need all that material. So we need to trim these back. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to cut, I think, right about there. That is, if I can cut it. This is pretty hard stuff. They're solid copper, and even though copper's kind of soft, I believe this copper is pretty much work hardened. Oh man, it is resisting my ability to cut it. Let me see, do I have a heavier pair of cutters around here? Heavier. I guess we'll just have to put these in the vise and do it the cheater way. I almost got it through. You know what? I'm going to bring you guys back once I got these cut. It's going to take a few minutes. These are pretty hard. Alrighty, so we got these cut. We leave about 1/8 of an inch of material above the washer. And now we're going to dome them. But before we dome them, we're going to use this whole part, and we're going to make sure that this washer is down as tight as it can be. Yeah, those are on there. Okay. Now we're going to use the dome part of the tool and we are going to set the rivet. Look at that. That's not going to go anywhere. Nope. And what you can do is then you can come in here with a ball peen and you can dome those a little bit. Those are never going to easily come out, and being copper, they'll patina nicely, but they're not going to corrode. Nope. And we did change the shape just a little bit on that, as you can see, but when we attach it, it'll go right back to the shape it's supposed to. So let's go back into the studio, let's get this attached and see what it looks like. Okay, we're back in the studio and I am happy to be in here. It is 90.9 degrees. You might as well say 91 degrees outside. And my workshop is not air conditioned. So when I was finishing this up out there, I was sweating buckets, let me tell you. But here it is done, just the way I wanted it. As you can see, mounts on there with the Chicago screws. I didn't put any rubber in here. I want to go to the hardware store and get some different kind of rubber washers eventually, and maybe some longer machine screws, because these aren't quite long enough. You can see they don't come all the way. I want them to come all the way to the end of the threading. And when I get those, I will Loctite this all together, and it hangs on my hip quite nicely. I tried it on before I started the camera. So that will complete this segment of Kydex. There will be another segment coming, not right away, but how to build some accoutrements for this. So if you decide to get into Kydex, I hope these videos will help you, including the future videos that are coming. And I'll see y'all later out in the woods.